To take in the waist of the jeans, I'm going to start by seam ripping the center back seam. I'm going to rip out the center belt loop and label on these jeans. Also, seam ripping the stitches of these jeans is so hard. These stitches are honestly tighter than most of my friendships. Anyways, we would want to rip out the center back seam as needed. Don't rip out the entire thing, it's not necessary. Measure your waist and subtract that from the waist measurement of your jeans. That is the amount that you need to take in. For me, it was 3 inches, so I ripped out 1.5 inches of seam on either side of the center. I pinned at the 1.5 inch mark to set some boundaries. Then form a Bermuda triangle with your pins. The vertices of a Bermuda triangle are going to be the 1.5 inch points and the bottom center back seam point. Nobody is going to disappear in this triangle because we are going to disappear this triangle by aligning our vertical center seam with both of the slanting sides of the triangle. Place the vertical center seam over the left slanting edge and pin that in place. This takes some effort. It's not as easy as it looks because the jeans material is thick and it's just not easy to fold and pin. I poked myself several times. Anyways, after poking and pinning comes the stitching. Try stitching on top of the vertical center back seam to kind of hide your noob stitches. I did not use jeans thread or sturdy needles or anything, and it turned out fine. Then I repeated the same process on the right slanting edge. And you may want to cut out the excess fabric that you just tucked in. I did not because I was not 100% confident that this would work out. Just in case it didn't, I can always seam rip it and start again. Cutting out the fabric would just create a hole in the middle, and I didn't want to deal with that possibility right now. Okay, now once that's stitched and the Bermuda triangle has vanished, we now have ourselves the task of vanishing some of the fabric at the waistband. I'm going to make 2 cuts at the waistband. Both cuts would be a little off center so that when we stitch back the 2 parts of the freshly cut waistband, we have some overlapping part which enables in hiding the frayed edges. The upper part, whose frayed edges are exposed and pretty vulnerable at this point, would be taken care of by carefully folding it inside a bit and stitching on it. The inside part's frayed edges would be given some special attention as we are going to hand sew them. Why do we hand sew them? Because stitching them using the machine would create a seam that would be visible on the outside of the waistband. We already have our fair share of ant-like stitches on the jeans, and I don't want to up the quota any further. So I ingeniously hand stitched them without creating stitches at the outside. I'm just stitching the frayed edges with the inner layer of the waistband, making my stitches not pass entirely through the waistband but only halfway through it, and they don't have to look perfect, they are going to be at the inside. The inside is allowed to look terrible. Then finally, the belt loop would be hand sewn over the center, which would cleverly hide our imperfect stitches. It has to be hand sewn as the loops and the jeans material together are too thick to handle for my sewing machine. I won't lie, this process was torturous, but I became victorious, or at least that's what I thought before this happened. Yeah, the Bermuda Triangle makes its appearance. It has poked out, and I feel silly for not realizing this before. The jeans fit great at the waist, it's only the protrusion that I have to take care of. So I started by seam ripping the belt loop. Then I tried to accommodate the protruded material by displacing the long horizontal seam and shifting it upwards a bit and folding in some fabric in the process. The folding part was tough because the material was thick and I had no other option but to make a long horizontal slit. The slit would help me shift the seam up and I wouldn't have to fold any fabric. It's just shifting the seam up and stitching on it to create a plain surface area. The raw edges due to cutting the slit would have to be tucked under the seam, but that's no problem at all, totally doable. Now I was scared to cut an entire line in the middle of the jeans, but I knew I couldn't go back. I had come far enough and I want to take my chances. I was sweating a waterfall. I could not think straight. My stitches weren't looking straight. Could I achieve the perfect jeans dream, or would it just remain a dream? I was only one belt loop away from finding out. With sweat in my palms and pain in my back, I began stitching the loop onto the jeans. I prepared myself for the big reveal. And the Bermuda Triangle has finally vanished. Gone with it are the fears I had of my jeans slipping down whenever I tried to run or walk briskly in them. I'm pretty happy with what I have here. They fit like a glove.